I asked ChatGPT, do UK banks create money out of nothing when they make bank loans? ChatGPT responded, yes, in a very real sense. UK banks do create money when they make loans. Here's how it works. When you take out a loan, the bank doesn't go into a vault and hand you someone else's deposit. Instead, it creates a new deposit in your account. This is money creation because most of the money in the UK economy, around 95%, exists as bank deposits. Okay. I then asked how much new money is created annually from UK banks creating these loans, i.e. how much new money, or more accurately, currency, exists, or rather enters the economy each year from this practice. ChatGPT responded it's about 100 billion in the last year, and that year on year this represents a 3.3% increase in the money supply. So the problem with this is that value is derived from scarcity. So the only reason that money has any value is because it's difficult to get. There isn't an unlimited supply of it. A bit like with gold. Gold. If gold was everywhere, if gold was as common as dirt, gold would be worthless. Suddenly, if the amount of gold on planet Earth doubled, let's say we found some new gold deposit somewhere and the amount of gold on planet Earth doubled, then over time the price of gold would go down by approximately half as soon as that gold has entered circulation, and the prices have changed, if you like, responded to reflect the new amount of gold that exists. And it's the same with currency. So the more of it there is, the less it's worth, and the less of it there is, the more it's worth. So by allowing banks to increase the currency supply year on year by 3.3%, this is reducing the value of that currency every single year, not quite as much as 3.3%, because if you increase the money, the currency supply by 3.3%, you then have 103.3% of what you had before, and 3.3% of 103.3 is not quite 3.3, it's about 3. So it's slightly less than that, but still this represents a significant increase in the currency supply year on year, which also, of course, means a significant reduction in the value of that currency year on year. So people who have to work and earn their money are constantly having their wages reduced in terms of the value of that money. Whereas people who have assets, people who are already rich, are able to enjoy increased prices of their assets to reflect this increase in currency supply year on year. It's, in fact, assets, especially things like land and property, are one of the few ways that you can actually weather the storm of inflation, because of course you can't just print on demand land and bricks and mortar. These things are very real. Just in the same way that money was once real, it was tied to gold, and before we had that, we had different forms of money which were all real. At the moment we have something that's more akin to monopoly money. It can be created by banks when they make loans. 95% of the money that's in the economy exists in the form of essentially debt, because it started with a bank. So this whole system really amounts to nothing less than a wealth transfer from the rich to the poor, from the asset-rich class to the working class in the sense of actually having to work for your money. Not enough people speak about this. I don't know why. It seems that the debate has been very much usurped recently, quite rightly and understandably, by other important conversations around culture and demographic change, and all that stuff is really important. But we can't ignore the economic side of our civilizational collapse, and our money system is at the root of those problems. And ChatGPT is just telling the truth. This is how the money system works. It's constantly creating new money out of nothing. I then asked ChatGPT what would be the legal consequences for a private citizen in the UK who injects newly created currency into the economy, i.e. they create counterfeit money. Let's say the person in question creates just 1% of the amount that the banks create in a year. ChatGPT tells me they'd be looking at potentially an unlimited fine and or 10 years imprisonment. Of course, the banks do it. It's absolutely legal and fine. If they then lend money to subprime customers as they see them and lose a load of money, they are then bailed out at the expense of the taxpayer, the working class, again, the very people who are having their wealth constantly diluted by this system. So This is the major injustice of the modern world. It's not the only thing, but this really, really matters. We need reform of our monetary system. We need to return to something like a gold standard, or at least some form of free market for money, where the government doesn't have a monopoly on what it says is money. And of course, in the UK, because of tender laws, we have to pay our taxes in pound sterling, so which means that we're not forced to earn and pay wages in pound sterling, but it makes it, of course, a lot more convenient. This is the great scandal of our age, and it pisses me off.